Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. Today we take a look at George Van Tassel and his Integratron machine. This dome was inspired by conversations with aliens and has since become a desert landmark. George Van Tassel's post-war life started off typically enough. In the years after World War II, he was working as a tool and die maker at Douglas Aircraft in Santa Monica, and living with his wife, Eva, and their 3 daughters in a 900 square foot bungalow. By the end of the decade, he'd relocated the family to tents next to a giant rock in the Mojave Desert, where he communicated with space people who shared secrets about telepathy, immortality, and instructions to build a hemispherical umbrella dome that became known as the Integratron. What is the Integratron? It's a circular, wooden, 2-story hemispherical umbrella dome structure built by George Van Tassel near Landers starting in 1958. Its primary purpose was as a life extension machine, but Van Tassel thought it might be able to undertake time travel and anti-gravity experiences. It was intended to be the primary building of a 10-acre campus called the College of Universal Wisdom, to educate people about the teachings and guidance of the space people. But who are the space people? Van Tassel had an interest in the metaphysical sciences before he moved to the desert and evolved into speaking to space beings. He started receiving transmissions from what he called the space people, and he claims to have been visited by one called Solganda one night in 1953. Dozens of other space people were channeled through his mind. He called these forms of communication an omni-beam. What did the alien say? The alien told him that the problem with human beings is that by the time you learn what you need to know, you're old and you die, and that life must be extended. He ran an interplanetary spacecraft convention there from the 1950s through the 1970s. They were the first large gatherings in the U.S. of ufologists. How was the Integratron built? Architecturally, it is quite phenomenal. The upper level is a dome of all exposed wood. Solganda told him not to use any metal in the construction. The design is based on an aircraft fuselage. It's a hemispherical umbrella dome made of gluon ribs connected with wooden dowels. There is a 1.5-ton concrete and micarta non-metallic oculus made by Westinghouse for aerospace use. Van Tassel appears to have worked with Howard Hughes on an all-wood aircraft called the D-2. It was the precursor to the Spruce Goose. If you look at pictures of the interior of the Spruce Goose and the Integratron dome, they're very similar. Now, how does this thing work? How is it supposed to work? There were supposed to be 64 aluminum die rods, or extended beams, intended to spin and generate electrostatic energy. He was reading about Nikola Tesla and others, and Van Tassel thought he could generate 50,000 volts and regulate the energy of a human cell. Cells give off energy, and the Integratron was going to generate trillions of negative ions. As cells age, they no longer give off the proper charge, which in turn causes aging and health problems. He wanted to recharge the cells because he thought that spirits were basically electricity. Did he extend his own life? Although it was a life extension machine, Van Tassel himself ran out of time. He passed away in 1978, and all the machinery intended to be inside was never installed. So sadly, he didn't get his machine built in time for himself. And now for a brief commercial break.
I'm telling you, something is going on.
Calm down. Let's think about this rationally. If there is a maniac running around killing people, don't you think the officers you talked to earlier would see that? They're trained to look at this type of scene, analyze the evidence.
Or they're suffering from cognitive dissonance.
Let me write you a prescription.
Are you okay, Doc? You got some blood trickling.
Oh, I poked myself earlier.
Don't bother, it's okay. I'm fine.
problem. Looks like our time is up. Go home, get some rest, enjoy the weekend. This will all be over in a couple of days.
I will. Thanks.
What happened after he died? His wife kept publishing his newsletter, Proceedings, for a while, but other people have tried to take ownership, including somebody who wanted to paint it lavender and call it the Lavender Disco. In the 90s, a couple bought it and wanted to fire it up, but that never happened. 3 sisters from New York now own it. They are running a very popular sound bath experience. What is going to happen with this building? It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2018. The property owner was interested in protecting it for the future and was very sensitive to the legacy of Van Tassel and his creations. A psychiatrist Carl Jung called California classic saucer country. There's an openness in California to the metaphysical and high tech. This is one of the most interesting forms of time travel. George Van Tassel wasn't creating a machine that would propel you forwards or backwards into time, but instead, his focus was on prolonging the human body into eternity, making us immortal. It's extremely saddening that he never got the chance to finish it, which means we'll never know if it works or if it doesn't. I myself am getting older and would love to be there if they fire it up for a spin. Thank you for watching Murder, Monsters, and Mysteries. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, as we'll be uploading more regularly.